Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining us today. I deeply appreciate Shivani's efforts in making this event happen, and I really want to thank her and all the performers that they felt and they thought it is really necessary to look back and on what they have created. When Shivani told me about this, I have noted down few things why I felt and how I approach this need of revisiting our work. So I'm just going to read out my notes for you. What I create is a part of who I am. Where I create, I'm true to myself. I reflect, I learn, and I unlearn. I strongly believe that as an artist, revisiting the journey I embarked on is deeply moving. There is both a sense of belonging and enduring longing to create. It feels like timber, the wood, lying around to season, make it suitable for use. These movements are just collected, and now they're adjusting their content of that of the environment in which they will be used. I carry what I have created, offering it to the spectator to sever, leave, or carry with them as they please. Yet I choose to live with it. And I'm curious about everybody's journey here, beautiful artists and performers. And I want to know what they think and if they can share their journeys with us. Um, could you summarize how you approached this topic when it was given to you and what exactly guided you to create what you have done? Can you please talk about it if you have worked on the similar things or the same piece or anything throughout the journey?
I'm happy to go first for this time. Um, uh, yeah, so the topic that Shivani very kindly gave to us, or the brief, was around, yeah, creating a work that is an experience. It's a bit experimental, but also this kind of experiential theme. The way that I approached it, so I've always got a few things, in my mind. So I'm like, okay, this would be interesting to explore. This would be interesting to explore, and as an idea. So I decided this time to hold on to this idea of flowers. So this was the theme that I really used for my performance piece, and the idea of how we use flowers as offerings, how we use them to sanctify space, and the way that we incorporate them into um, classical dance practices. So Odissi has, a flower offering very integrated into the opening piece of the repertoire. So this was kind of the theme that I was like, okay, I'm going to try and use this theme. And when I was thinking about, okay, how do I make this so it's actually an experience for the audience? And one of the things that is very powerful for me in dancing Odissi is that it is an experience dancing this dance form. It's a very embodied process. This actual, when you are dancing the Mangalacharan and you are actually holding those flowers and you are offering them at the feet of Jagannath or whichever deity, um, it is quite an experience. So that's something that I thought, okay, if there's a way that I can actually allow the audience to even have a small taste of what that might feel like, that moment of, holding the flowers, having that kind of reverential moment of concentration and stillness before having your outward expression. If I can somehow bring them into that feeling and that experience that gives me so much fulfillment and joy, that's something that I really wanted to see how I could actually make this happen. Uh, yeah, and if you watch the video, you'll see how how it happened. Yeah, thanks. I will pass over to Debanjali because I can see you on my screen.
Hi. I hope most members in the audience are aware of the minor characters Amba and Shikhandi of Mahabharata. Um, it's very interesting story in the mythology itself, but I wanted to make those characters represent something, which was what my sort of choreographic thinking process was. One was, if you're familiar with Manipuri as a classical dance, the genre itself has two kinds of movement techniques. One is, as Shivani said, the Lasya and the Tandav. They're associated with male or masculine and feminine or female. And it's mostly represented in the classical dance with the aharya or the costumes that we wear. So if you strip away the aharya, if you take away the aharya, then what do you have? You don't have maleness or femaleness. Then you have vigorous movements as well as more restrained movements. So that was somehow one of the starting points of thinking about what can be done with the characters, where the characters of Shikhandi and Amba in the mythology had themselves gone through many layers of gendering. And now when you think about contemporary ideas of what it means for queering within a body, then again, that also comes within this process of gendering oneself, not just with the clothes or the embellishments that we wear, but it's also something that's deep within us. It's not just a representation, it's also something that's going on with us without external or internal kind of influences. And the third thing was, I sort of got on Vandha at a time a little later than the others. So I discussed this with Shivani that if I can work something as a solo that was already in the process of being worked as a trio with my two Manipuri dance partners, and part of a larger production on finding minor, major mythology characters and talk about queering or gendering through them. So the story of Amba and Shikhandi did come from a larger production that's in the long process of making. And I wanted to make storytelling and abstractness as a part. So if you see the 15-minute piece, you would see that there is a storytelling aspect which is going on, which is done with voiceover. And with the amazing lights that was done that day and with the soundscape and the choreography within that space, I felt that I could weave in the more vigorous and the restrained movements together to make that as a part of the storytelling process of two characters struggling to be in one body or two bodies, separated by birth, but united by destiny, as mythologies say. So, yeah.
Okay, that leaves me. I actually went back to the brief that Shivani had sent to us last year, and I actually opened it before this conversation. I was like, what did she actually tell us to do? And the one of the lines which really stuck out for me even then was, what are the most defining elements of your form, each of our forms, if we didn't have any conventions? So in her inquiry, she had asked, like, what is my Kathak? So then my starting point, or the starting point of my creative process was, what is my Bharatanatyam? And I thought, okay, let me try and start writing down, what is my Bharatanatyam? And I realized that in trying to do that, I was actually starting to write down what is not my Bharatanatyam. Like, what are the things that don't sit very well with me? Like this constant, like, obsession of the Naika pining for someone, or the all the religious ideas that go with it, or the fact that it is a South Indian ancient classical dance form, and like, what about the contemporary context in which it is used and explored? And we've pushed so many boundaries already. And then I was like, okay, are these my assumptions, or is this what people still do and think? So then I did a very simple Google search, and all the first 4 or 5 definitions on encyclopedias, YouTube search, everyone starts with Bharatanatyam is an ancient classical Indian dance form from southern India. You have bent legs and hands are like this. Okay, so then I was like, okay, so this is not my assumption. This is what people still think, and this is what's still out there. So then I think that process of what is not my Bharatanatyam started coming down on paper. One of the things I'm really grateful for is that my mother is my guru. And I think sometimes in the Indian classical dance systems, it's very sometimes it's a bit complicated to like challenge your guru on like, saying that, oh, this is how things have been done, but why do we still do them in a certain way? But with my mother, it was very interesting to have those conversations. So I started writing down, I started having conversations with her, also very nice conversations with Shivani. So I think for me, reflecting, writing, and talking were sort of the first layer of my creative process of trying to understand this. And I took it quite literally. I didn't take one aspect of Bharatanatyam, but from Shivani's prompt, I took Bharatanatyam as a whole. What is not mine? So I think it was a more broad based thinking for me. Whereas I think for Debanjali and Maryam, they're very specific, like certain aspects of the dance form, and y'all went deeper into it. For me, it was a little bit more broad and like what doesn't work for me, sort of. So that was the beginning of my creative process. And I'll share other stuff when we come to the other question.
Thank you. Yes, that's. I urge everybody whenever they get time, please do watch these performances, and uh, we inspire you to watch more. Yeah, it's really, really um, comforting to see these beautiful dancers move and relate to what they are trying to say. For me, unfortunately, I was not there to watch it live, but when I watched it on YouTube, it's a small screen, so my focus and the frame gave me more time to connect, and it has a very different impact on me. And that's how I wanted to speak with all the dancers, and I hope you all would love to watch it too.